Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. What a powerful phrase, good morning. But do we really understand the power of the morning? Do we realize that every morning is not just a new day, it is a new opportunity, a new battlefield, and a fresh invitation from the Creator himself to rise in strength? Let me tell you something foundational. Strength is not found in sleep. Strength is found in strategy, and the most strategic part of the day is the morning. Why? Because how you start determines how you stand, and how you stand determines how you win. The way you begin anything is often the way you continue it, and how you continue is the greatest predictor of how you will end. Life does not randomly unfold. It responds to rhythm, to momentum, to decisions made in the earliest moments of your day. That's why the morning is not just a time. It is a turning point. It is the gateway through which every promise, every challenge, every opportunity, and every battle of the day must pass. And the moment you wake up, whether you realize it or not, you're already making a statement to your mind, your body, and your spirit about how this day will go. There is a secret that successful people rarely speak aloud, not because it's hidden, but because it's so foundational, they almost forget it's the root of their strength. That secret is the intentional use of morning. The first minutes, the first hour, the first thoughts, they all hold more weight than most people ever grasp. You cannot carry peace into a day you entered with panic. You cannot walk in clarity if you started in confusion. The first voice you hear, the first thing you touch, the first thought you allow to sit in your mind, it sets your emotional thermostat, your mental compass, and your spiritual alignment. It is not that people who rise early are automatically better. It is that people who take ownership of the morning are more likely to own the day. Ownership is the key. You can wake up and let the day happen to you, or you can wake up and declare what this day is allowed to be. And that decision starts in the morning. Look around. Too many people start their day reacting. The alarm clock screams and their heart rate spikes. They grab the phone and instantly they are in someone else's world. News, messages, demands, all arriving before they've had time to greet their own soul, and then we wonder why anxiety walks with us by 10 a.m. or why we feel behind by lunchtime. The answer is simple: we never took the lead. We allowed the day to dictate the terms. Strength, true inner strength, starts when you make the morning sacred. That doesn't mean religious. That means intentional. You guard it. You guide it. You decide what enters and what doesn't. You speak before you listen. You give thanks before you worry. You breathe before you scroll. You pray, you journal, you stretch, you sit in silence. Whatever aligns you with your values, you do that first. Because if the day is a war, the morning is your armor. Consider this. Every system in your life is affected by the tone you set in the morning. Your attitude at work, the patience you offer your children, the discipline behind your habits, even the clarity of your decision-making. It all flows downstream from how you began. Just as a musician tunes their instrument before the concert, a strong person tunes their spirit before the day begins. The mistake most people make is assuming that time is the most important factor in success. But it's not just what time you wake up, it's how you use the time you wake into. You can get up at 4 a.m. and still carry chaos with you if your mind isn't focused. You can wake up at 8 a.m. and still lead your day with power if you are anchored. The key is intention. Strength comes not from early hours, but from early ownership. And when you take that ownership, the ripple effect is powerful. Your energy shifts. You stop running from task to task trying to catch up, and instead you move with purpose. You listen better, you think clearer, you speak with more weight. Why? Because you didn't enter the day like a victim. You stepped into it like a leader. You declared, this day will serve the vision, not sabotage it. That declaration does not come from luck. It comes from preparation, and preparation starts in the morning. Even your faith responds to how you start your day. When you give your first words, your first thoughts, your first breath to something higher than yourself, you create alignment. And alignment brings authority. When your inner world is aligned, the outer world stops shaking you so easily. You become a thermostat, not a thermometer. You set the tone instead of reacting to it. What most people call a bad day is often just a poorly managed morning. The traffic wasn't the real issue. The boss wasn't the real problem. The children weren't the real source of stress. The root was planted early, when the morning was left unguarded, unclaimed, and unstructured. But when you make the decision to rise, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually, you begin to write a new script, one where you lead, not follow, one where your emotions obey your purpose, not your problems, one where the day works for you, not against you. So the next time you wake up, before you do anything else, ask yourself, what kind of day do I want to live? And then let your first actions, your first words, your first thoughts reflect that desire. Because once the morning is mastered, the rest of the day must follow. Discipline is not a trait you're born with, it's a muscle you build. And just like any muscle, it responds to pressure, to routine, to repetition. But the mistake most people make is waiting until the pressure is high before they attempt to build discipline. By then it's too late. You don't train for the war in the middle of the battle. You train in the quiet, in the early, in the hidden hours when no one sees you. That's where discipline is born in the morning. The morning doesn't just test your discipline, it creates it. Because it is in the morning that your first real choice is made. Do I obey my feelings or do I obey my purpose? The bed is warm, the body is tired, the reasons to delay are endless, but right there in that tug-of-war between comfort and calling, strength is forged. You don't build discipline at the gym. You build it the moment you get out of bed, when your flesh says no, and your will says yes. That one moment sets a precedent. That moment becomes a message to your brain, I am in control. Most people think discipline is about rules. It's not. Discipline is about order, and order is the foundation of strength. A disciplined person isn't stronger because they have less temptation. They're stronger because they have more structure. The person who disciplines their morning is the person who leads their day with authority. And the person who leads their day leads their life. Show me someone who has authority in their morning, and I will show you someone who cannot be easily moved. You see, feelings are real, but they are not reliable. Your feelings will lie to you. They will tell you that you need more sleep when what you really need is more direction. They will tell you that you're tired when in truth you're unmotivated. They will try to convince you that rest is always the answer. But strength is not the absence of tiredness. Strength is your ability to move forward even when tiredness knocks. And that inner grit, that refusal to surrender to mood, is only built when you meet your morning with discipline. This is why the most successful people are almost always early risers. Not because it's trendy or impressive, but because they understand that the world is loud, and the morning is the only time when you can think clearly, hear deeply, and act intentionally. Discipline doesn't begin when the phone starts ringing, or when the meetings begin, or when the kids are crying. It begins when it's just you, your thoughts, and your next decision. The strongest people you'll ever meet don't wait for motivation. They create it. And they create it through repetition. Every time they rise early to study, to plan, to pray, to run, to reflect, they are telling their body who's in charge. They are not waiting for the perfect mood to strike. They are moving with conviction, and that conviction compounds. What you do for 10 mornings becomes your character on the 11th. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to respect your own voice. And when you trust yourself, when you know you'll show up no matter what, that's power. The reason most people don't live strong is because they've never lived consistently. Their intentions are good, but their follow-through is weak. Why? Because the habit of showing up wasn't formed, and the habit of showing up can only be built in the morning. That's when your mind is uncluttered, your energy is undivided, and your choices are most pure. In the morning there are no excuses yet, no one has disappointed you yet, no distraction has hijacked your thinking. It's just you and the mirror of your own discipline. You cannot call yourself strong if you are a slave to the comfort of a mattress. A strong person is not afraid of sacrifice, and the first sacrifice is often sleep. Not because sleep isn't good, but because discipline is better. You can always sleep later, But what you lose in purpose by skipping the discipline of morning, you may never get back. Every moment you choose to lead your body instead of letting your body lead you, you build something inside that no one can take away. That's real power, and that's why morning matters. Now listen carefully. Discipline is not punishment. It is alignment. It is freedom in disguise. The person who wakes up early and sticks to their plan is not missing out on life. They are maximizing life. They are getting ahead, not of others, but of their former self. They are escaping the trap of regret. Regret is a weight far heavier than discipline. Discipline demands that you rise early. Regret demands that you live with what you missed. Choose wisely, and don't wait for discipline to feel good. Most days it won't, but strength is never developed in comfort. It is forged in consistency. The world may see your results, but they'll never understand the mornings that birthed them. That's okay. Let your life speak for you. Let your decisions be louder than your declarations. Let your mornings carry the proof, because in the end, strength is not given, it is chosen, it is practiced, it is protected. And if you want to live strong, live disciplined, and if you want to live disciplined, start in the morning. Time is the only resource every human being receives in equal measure. Rich or poor, educated or uneducated, old or young. We all begin each day with 24 hours. And yet, the difference between success and struggle often comes down to one thing: how those hours are used. The greatest miscalculation people make is thinking they need more time, but the truth is they don't need more time, they need multiplied time. And nothing multiplies your time like the morning. When you rise early, before the demands of the world knock at your door, you enter into a sacred window of multiplied impact. In those early hours, the minutes stretch further. The mind is sharper, the world is quieter, distractions are fewer, and focus, true, deep, uninterrupted focus, becomes possible. That kind of clarity is rare during the rest of the day. The phone rings. The messages come. People need you. The pressure builds. But in the morning, it's just you and the moment. What you do with it determines the kind of day and life you live. People often say, "I don't have time." But the real question is, when are you using your time? Because the same task that takes you 3 hours in the afternoon, after you've fought interruptions, fatigue, and decision fatigue, can be done in one focused hour in the morning. That's not theory, that's mathematics. That's time multiplied by energy and attention. Your brain is designed to operate at its peak after a period of rest. Not rest from Netflix, but rest from the noise and weariness of the world. That's why when you wake up early, your mind is not yet pulled in 10 different directions. Your spirit hasn't been drained, your emotional tank is still full. That's why morning time is strategic time. It gives you access to your highest performance potential with the least amount of friction. But it's not just about productivity, it's about priority. When you use your morning to do what matters most, you ensure that the important does not get drowned by the urgent. You build a life of intention instead of living in reaction. That's the difference between strength and stress. The strong don't just do more. They do first what matters most. That's the secret. When you wait until later to do the important things, like praying, planning, writing, reading, building, training, there's a high chance they'll be pushed aside. But when you do them in the morning, before the noise, before the emails, before the opinions, you are taking back control. There's a truth most people don't want to hear. Busyness is not the same as progress. Many are running but going nowhere. They are tired but not fruitful. They are active but not effective. Why? Because they start their days in chaos. They skip the stillness. They avoid the structure. They dive straight into other people's priorities. And in doing so, they lose the power of multiplied time. But when you wake early before you have to, you move ahead of the curve, you gain space, you gain calm. You create a buffer between you and the chaos of the world. You create time that feels expanded because it is undivided. One concentrated hour in the morning is worth 3 distracted hours in the afternoon. That's not motivational fluff. That's practical reality. You don't need longer days. You need smarter starts. And let's go deeper. Rising early also gives you the ability to invest in things that compound. The gym, the journal, the scripture, the meditation, the silence. These things don't show results overnight, but over time they multiply your capacity. They build your character, they grow your influence, but they require consistent investment, and the best time to make that investment is when your spirit is undisturbed, when your energy is fresh, and when your choices are pure. That time is the morning. The problem is, many people have not experienced the power of multiplied time because they've never taken control of it. They say things like, "I'm not a morning person," as if that's a permanent identity. But being a morning person is not about personality, it's about priority, it's about purpose. When your reason is strong enough, the routine follows. No one likes waking up early at first, but discipline always comes before delight. And in time, what once felt difficult becomes natural. You stop dragging yourself out of bed and start being drawn out by vision. Time is not just something you spend, it is something you sow. When you sow time in the morning with purpose, it produces fruit throughout the day. You experience less pressure, less rushing, less regret. You stop living at the mercy of the clock, and instead you become the one who tells the clock what to do. You lead your time instead of being led by it. The people who achieve more are not the ones who hustle harder at night. They are the ones who start smarter in the morning, because they understand that the first hour is the engine of the next 23. And if the engine is strong, the journey becomes smooth. If it's weak, the day becomes a drag. Multiply your time by mastering your morning. Make your first moments your finest investments. Don't wait for the world to demand your attention. Wake up and demand your destiny. There is a place deep inside every human being that longs for direction, for clarity, for purpose. It's not loud, but it's constant. It whispers in the quiet moments and calls out during the noise. But the reason most people never hear it is because their lives are too fast, too crowded, and too noisy to notice. That's why the morning matters so deeply. It is the meeting place between your soul and your assignment. It's not just a new part of the day, it's a divine appointment with the reason you were born. When you wake in the morning, before the world calls your name, there is a sacred space. It's untouched, it's pure. The distractions haven't yet arrived, the noise hasn't yet flooded in, and the demands haven't yet shouted for attention. In that space, something powerful happens. You are able to listen. You're able to ask questions that matter. Who am I? Why am I here? What is this day meant to produce? What kind of person do I want to be today? These questions don't get answered in traffic. They don't get answered in the rush of schedules. They only get answered in stillness. And morning is the stillness where those answers begin to form. Purpose doesn't scream, it whispers. And unless you slow down long enough to listen, you will go years without hearing it. People go through their entire lives chasing money, attention, success, applause. Things they can measure, only to discover that they never truly felt fulfilled. Why? Because they never learned to meet with their purpose. They were too busy managing tasks to ask why they were even doing them. But in the morning, if you choose it, you can interrupt the cycle. You can step outside the chaos. You can look in the mirror and have a meeting with your future. Purpose needs space to speak. It needs silence. It needs intentional focus. And that's exactly what the morning provides. It's not just about having a routine. It's about having a sacred rhythm. A rhythm that reminds you every day you are not random. You were not born by accident. There is something you are carrying that the world needs, and your job is not just to survive the day, but to deliver the gift you were assigned to bring. Every strong life begins with clarity of purpose. But that clarity is not automatic. It must be sought. It must be revisited, because even when you know your purpose, the weight of the world has a way of making you forget. That's why the morning is not just for waking up your body. It's for waking up your memory. It's for remembering who you are and why you matter. You remind yourself that you are not here just to work, to pay bills, or to impress others. You are here to impact something. And when you start your day from that place, you don't walk, you move with mission. The reason so many people drift through life is because they never establish this meeting with themselves. They are chasing success without defining significance. But true strength doesn't come from working harder. It comes from living more intentionally. And intention is born from purpose. Purpose is born in stillness. Stillness happens in the morning. It's in the morning that your spirit can align with something greater than yourself. In that first hour, you get to ask heaven for direction. You get to place your plans under higher authority. You get to check your ambition against your assignment. That's why people who start with purpose rarely waste time later. They don't have the energy for every distraction. They don't chase every opportunity. They don't entertain every invitation, because they started their day with vision, and vision creates boundaries. When you meet with your purpose in the morning, you don't need to wait for motivation. You already have meaning. You don't need to search for approval. You already have identity. You don't need to beg for energy. You have alignment. That alignment becomes your engine. It moves you forward when others are still wondering what to do next. That's why your most valuable meeting of the day isn't with your team, your boss, or your clients. It's with yourself in the morning before anyone else sees you. Strength is not just the ability to endure pressure. Strength is knowing what you're here to do and refusing to be distracted by anything that doesn't support it. That's why morning is holy. It's not about checking off a list or achieving productivity for the sake of pride. It's about stepping into your assignment with clarity, peace, and power. You weren't created to simply react to life. You were created to lead it, but you can't lead what you haven't first aligned with. And alignment begins in that sacred meeting, first thing in the morning. Most people ask the world to tell them what to do. But when you meet with purpose each morning, you stop asking the world and start telling it. You move differently, you speak with weight. You walk with conviction, not because you're perfect, but because you're aligned, you know what you're about, and that awareness protects you from compromise. It shields you from distraction, it guides you through the confusion of life, and that's the kind of strength the world needs. Not louder people, but clearer ones. That kind of clarity can't be rushed. It has to be prioritized. You have to want it more than you want comfort. More than you want the snooze button, more than you want to blend in. Because when you've met with your purpose before the sun rises, you no longer have to stumble through the dark. There are two kinds of people in the world, those who maintain and those who master. The difference is not in talent or intelligence. It's in how they use their time, especially their time in the morning. Maintenance is reactive. It waits for life to happen and then tries to hold things together. Mastery is proactive. It takes authority before the day even begins. And the morning is the most powerful opportunity you have to decide which one you will be. The tragedy is that most people have settled for maintenance. They wake up just in time to rush through a routine, barely organized, often anxious, already behind. They use the morning to survive, not to strategize. Their first thoughts are not about purpose or vision, but about catching up. They're chasing tasks instead of setting direction. That's not mastery, that's damage control, and over time it drains strength from your life. But the individuals who rise with intention don't see the morning as a checklist. They see it as a command center. They know that the early hours are not for managing yesterday's mess, but for shaping tomorrow's results. When you use your morning for mastery, you build before anything is broken. You develop before you are demanded upon. You practice before you perform. That's the difference. Masters don't wait for the world to give them permission. They create their own momentum. And that momentum begins when no one else is watching. There is a sacred advantage in using the morning to strengthen what matters most. Your mind, your body, your spirit, your vision. These are the pillars of strength that too many neglect in the name of being busy. But busy doesn't build a legacy. Only focused, consistent mastery does. And the best place to build it is in the hours when the world is still quiet, when the energy around you hasn't yet become polluted by urgency, crisis, and distraction. What you give your morning to will either multiply your strength or drain it. If the first thing you feed is your phone, you're consuming the priorities of others before you've defined your own. If you jump straight into tasks without reflection, you're just performing, you're not growing. Masters make a different choice. They dedicate the early hours to mastery, learning, planning, stretching, praying, reading, writing, envisioning, not because they're trying to impress anyone, but because they understand a simple law. Private preparation leads to public power. The morning is your personal gym, not just for your body, but for your will. It's the place where resistance builds resilience. When you discipline yourself to rise early and devote that time to self-development, you are training your spirit to lead your life. Not your mood, not your fatigue, not your schedule, but your spirit. And when your spirit leads, everything else follows. Too many people live on a loop of repetition without progress. They're maintaining habits that never lead to growth. They do what they've always done, and then wonder why they never become who they were meant to be. But mastery requires a higher standard. It means identifying the weak areas of your life and confronting them head on, before life forces you to. It means sharpening your gifts, strengthening your thoughts, examining your patterns, and elevating your goals. That kind of work can't be done in the rush of the afternoon. It requires focus, solitude, and discipline. It requires the morning. Mornings give you leverage. When you use them wisely, you begin to get ahead, not just of the day, but of your former self. You begin to outgrow old habits. You stop tolerating mediocrity. You don't wait for motivation to find you, because you're already driven by a deeper sense of direction. And direction is what separates the weak from the strong. Weakness wanders. Strength walks with aim. Maintenance feels safe because it doesn't demand risk, but it also doesn't produce excellence. It will let you stay employed, but not become a leader. It will let you be known, but not truly respected. It will help you keep up appearances, but not cultivate deep integrity. But when you rise to master your morning, you are rejecting that comfort zone. You are declaring through action that your life is not an accident, it's an assignment. And assignments require mastery, not just management. Every morning you are given time. What you do with it determines what you become. If you give it to routine without reflection, tasks without transformation, then you are simply maintaining. But if you give it to intentional development, if you learn, if you stretch, if you push beyond convenience, then you are stepping into the role of a master. You are not just reacting to life, you are shaping it. Mornings are not about being busy. They're about becoming who you were created to be, becoming disciplined, becoming whole, becoming a person of vision and strength and purpose. That becoming doesn't happen automatically. It's not found in the crowd. It's forged in the quiet, in the early, in the intentional. And that's what mastery is. A decision made daily before the world wakes up to live not just efficiently, but excellently. The habits you form in the morning are not just about how you start your day. They are about who you are becoming for the rest of your life. Every morning, whether you recognize it or not, you are shaping your identity. Not with your words, not with your intentions, but with your actions. The choices you make in the first hour of your day speak louder than the goals written in your journal or the vision boards hanging on your wall, because in that hour your character is either being confirmed or compromised. It's easy to think identity is something fixed, something determined by birth, background, or personality. But the truth is, identity is formed, and it is formed through patterns, through repeated decisions, through quiet disciplines that no one sees but everyone eventually experiences. Who you are becoming is being crafted each morning, not in grand gestures, but in the small, seemingly insignificant choices that compound over time. Do you rise early or hit snooze? Do you feed your spirit or your distractions? Do you choose alignment or autopilot? Morning is the root and identity is the fruit. You cannot grow the fruit of strength, clarity, leadership, or peace if you plant seeds of disorder, delay, and avoidance every morning. The tree of your life will only bear what your habits consistently sow. What you do before 8 a.m. is not separate from your destiny. It is the soil in which your destiny takes root. You are not just managing time. You are managing your becoming. The danger is that most people never see the connection. They think habits are just routines, neutral behaviors that either make life easier or harder, but every habit is a builder of identity. Repeated enough, it becomes part of how you see yourself, and how you see yourself determines what you believe you are capable of. It becomes your default, your self-talk, your posture in the world. If your mornings are filled with discipline, intention, and quiet purpose, over time you stop seeing yourself as someone trying to change. You begin to become the changed person. You don't read because it makes you smarter in a day. You read because readers become thinkers, and thinkers become leaders. You don't pray because it solves every problem by 9 a.m. You pray because people who meet with their Creator daily begin to walk with clarity, peace, and conviction that outlasts storms. You don't exercise because your body transforms in 1 week. You do it because strong habits build strong minds, and strong minds carry purpose farther than passion ever will. These things are not events. They are identity rituals, and identity rituals belong at the start of the day. There is something holy about the morning, not in a religious sense, but in a sacred sense. It's a sacred time where you are most honest, most raw, most open to influence. It is the hour where the foundation of your inner life is set for the next 24. If you feed your mornings with mindless habits, you numb your soul. But if you feed it with deliberate, nourishing practices, your soul grows resilient. And a resilient soul cannot be manipulated, broken, or easily swayed. You were not created to blend in with the chaos. You were designed to bring order, to reflect purpose, to move with intention, but none of that happens by accident. You cannot expect excellence from a life built on convenience, and you cannot expect a clear identity to emerge from a life of vague discipline. The habits of the morning are not glamorous. No one claps when you rise before the sun, when you deny yourself the scroll, when you kneel in prayer, or when you write down your thoughts with no audience. But over time, those uncelebrated habits begin to speak through your life. They show up in how you speak, how you lead, how you endure, how you respond under pressure. That's identity, not what you post, but what you carry, not what people see, but what they feel when you enter a room. That weight of presence, that inner stillness, that clarity of mind, that doesn't come from luck or personality. It comes from the habits that shaped you in silence again and again every morning. Most people try to change their life by changing their outcomes. But outcomes don't shape identity. Identity shapes outcomes, and identity is shaped by what you repeat. So if you want to change your life, don't start with a goal. Start with a habit. Start with a rhythm. Start with the next morning. Build a foundation so consistent that the person you are becoming cannot be shaken by the pressures you will eventually face. That's not hype. That's wisdom. That's maturity. That's legacy. What you do each morning is not a routine. It's a declaration. It's you telling time, the world, and your own soul who you are and what you value. So if you want to walk in strength, if you want to be unshakable in identity, stop focusing on the distant future and start taking dominion over the first hour of the day. Because that first hour is not just about starting well, it's about becoming whole. There is a difference between movement and power. You can move without power, but you won't move far. You can run without direction, but you won't run long. You can wake up early, plan your schedule, and go through all the motions of a productive life. But without alignment, you're just spinning in circles. And that's why the morning must not only be structured. It must be spiritually aligned. The strongest people are not those who carry the most pressure. They are those who carry the right power, and that power is not man-made. It is accessed, it is received, it is aligned, and it happens in prayer. Morning prayer is not a ritual for the religious. It is a necessity for the aware. Because whether you acknowledge it or not, you are stepping into a battlefield every day. You are entering into conversations, decisions, temptations, distractions, demands, all of which are pulling on your energy, your mind, your emotions. And if you enter into that field without first aligning yourself with the source of wisdom, peace, and strength, you will eventually run on empty. You'll have strategy but no stability. You'll have plans but no presence. Prayer in the morning is not about reciting words. It is about alignment. It's about bringing your mind, your motives, your heart, and your vision back into submission under divine authority. It is you saying, before I build anything today, let me first sit with the builder. Before I speak to people, let me hear from the one who shaped them. Before I lead others, let me be led. That's not weakness. That's wisdom, because only those who know where their help comes from will be strong enough to help others. The world teaches you to hustle, to start with emails, headlines, numbers. But heaven teaches you to start with presence. To be still before you are strategic, to be anchored before you are active, because activity without alignment is dangerous. It looks impressive, but it's empty. You can gain followers, titles, applause. But if you are not anchored in God, you are a house built on sand. One storm, one betrayal, one crisis, and it all crumbles. But when you begin with prayer, you are not just preparing for storms. You are rooted in the one who speaks to storms. Prayer repositions your perspective. It reminds you of your source. It strips away pride before pride can take root. It purifies your motives before ambition pollutes them. It gives you peace before pressure tries to take it. That kind of clarity can't be found in books or podcasts alone. It comes from a conversation with the Creator, and that conversation shapes everything. In morning prayer, you receive more than peace. You receive permission. You don't move just because something looks good. You move because you are led. You don't chase opportunity. You ask for discernment. You don't fight battles you were never called to fight. You conserve your strength for the ones that matter, and that level of discernment only comes from divine alignment. The morning is the best time to pray because your spirit is most open. You are not yet surrounded by noise. Your thoughts haven't yet been hijacked by the rush. It's your clearest space to hear, to surrender, to listen. And the beauty of prayer is not only that you speak, it's that you are spoken to. In that stillness, things become clear, burdens are lifted, clarity is restored, and the day is no longer something to survive. It becomes a mission to fulfill. You were not created to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You were created to carry the presence of God in your heart. That is your advantage, that is your power, and when you activate that presence through prayer, your posture changes. You don't enter rooms with insecurity. You don't make decisions in fear. You don't react to people's opinions. You carry yourself with quiet confidence because you already heard from the one whose voice matters most. That kind of power cannot be faked. It cannot be substituted. No motivational quote or self-help tactic can take its place, because what prayer does is beyond human effort. It transforms you. It centers you. It equips you for the things you don't even know are coming. It gives you peace before the problem even arises. It gives you strategy before the need even appears. That's not coincidence. That's preparation. Prayer in the morning is not a pause from life. It is preparation for life, and not just any life. A life of purpose, conviction, and legacy. You cannot walk in that level of strength without consistent alignment. The same way a car must be aligned to drive straight, your life must be aligned to move with clarity. Without that alignment, you drift. You waste energy correcting the direction you should have set at the beginning of the day. And that's why the morning matters so much, because that's when alignment is easiest. That's when your heart is still soft, your thoughts are still quiet, your schedule is still untouched. That's when you decide who you are listening to. Will you listen to the pressure of people or the whisper of purpose? Will you follow anxiety or will you follow peace? Will you be led by demands or will you be led by wisdom? The difference is one decision. The decision to pray, the decision to align, the decision to begin not just with routine but with power. Winning doesn't begin on the platform. It doesn't begin when the crowd is watching, when the cameras are rolling, or when the prize is being handed out. Winning begins long before any of that, when no one is looking, when no one is cheering, and when there's no applause to keep you going. It begins in the private places of discipline and decision, and more often than not, it begins in the morning. The morning is where winners are made, not because the time itself holds power, but because it's the moment when choice is purest. Before the world calls your name, before responsibilities weigh you down, before distractions cloud your clarity, you are given a window of absolute control. What you do with it is what sets you apart. Greatness is not a random event. It's a practiced decision, and the people who win in life are not lucky. They are prepared. They do what others won't do so they can live how others cannot live. And their preparation starts before sunrise. You can tell a lot about someone's future by watching what they do when no one is watching. The champions, the leaders, the innovators, the ones who shape culture and shift environments. They don't start their day in reaction. They don't stumble into excellence. They don't drift into victory. They design their morning. They take control before the day takes control of them. While others are still sleeping or scrolling or rushing, the winner has already met with purpose, built discipline, planted focus, and renewed their mind. Winning requires consistency, not just when things feel good, but especially when they don't. The morning tests that consistency every single day. There will always be a reason to sleep a little longer. There will always be a reason to delay. And every time you silence that reason and rise anyway, you are not just training your body. You are training your identity. You are reinforcing the truth that you are in charge of your life. You are not a victim of the clock or your circumstances. You are a leader, and that leadership begins with leading yourself, especially when comfort tries to lead you back into weakness. The people who rise to win don't do it for the mood. They do it for the mission. They understand that feelings are temporary, but habits are eternal. They know that momentum is not found, it is built. It is built through repetition, through mastery, through quiet, unseen effort. And nothing provides the environment for that kind of work like the morning does. In that early hour, there are no lights, no applause, no eyes on you. It's just you, your mirror, your mind, and your decision. And that decision makes all the difference. Winners are not just productive, they are intentional. They don't just fill time, they invest it. And the best investment they make is in the first hour of the day. They use it to pray, to plan, to prepare, to practice, to feed their soul and sharpen their mind. They are not rushed because they've already taken dominion over time. They are not scattered because they've already focused their thoughts. They are not confused because they've already listened to truth before the world had a chance to lie to them. This is what separates the strong from the average. The strong don't wait for ideal conditions. They don't depend on motivation. They depend on standards, and the standard is set every single morning. When they rise with purpose, they're not doing it to impress anyone. They're doing it because they understand who they are and where they're going. Their actions are not random. They are prophetic. Each step they take in the early hour is a declaration. I am preparing for the life I was born to live. There are people who talk about winning, and there are people who train to win. The talkers dream while they sleep, the doers dream while they work, and that work often begins while others are still lost in slumber. That's the cost of greatness. It requires solitude, it demands discipline. It thrives in silence. The early morning is not just a time on the clock, it's a training ground, a sacred space where excuses die and standards are raised. It's where the future is formed in the furnace of quiet commitment. And that commitment is not always glamorous. Some days it feels hard. Some days the progress is invisible. Some days no one notices, but the winner shows up anyway. Because they understand that every rep, every note, every page, every prayer, every jog, every stretch, it's building something inside that cannot be stolen. They are not working for applause. They are working for alignment. They are not addicted to success. They are addicted to becoming, and that's why morning is so powerful. It reveals who is serious. It filters the talkers from the builders. It exposes the difference between intention and conviction. Because in the morning, there's nothing external pushing you. It's all internal. And when you push yourself without needing pressure from the outside, you are no longer just disciplined. You are dangerous. You are the kind of person who can't be stopped by mood, by delay, by difficulty, or by resistance. You have become the kind of person who wins not just once, but again and again and again. So if you want to change your life, don't wait for a new year, a new season, or a new opportunity. Start with a new morning, because every morning is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every morning is a mirror of your priorities, a reflection of your mindset, and a test of your discipline. Your strength is not built in the spotlight. It is forged in the silence. While the world sleeps, the strong are rising. While the average hits snooze, the committed are hitting their purpose. And while others start their day by reacting, the wise begin their day by aligning. Don't underestimate the power of your first hour. The battle for your future is often won before breakfast. So protect your mornings, command them, fill them with vision, discipline, faith, focus, and intention. Because the one who owns the morning does not just win the day, they win in life. Morning doesn't just make you strong. Morning reveals who's ready, be that person.